All right. Big red button says we're live. Thank you guys for joining me.
No worries. Good to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. Well, some of us almost didn't make it.
Yeah.
It's almost like every hotelier I talk to says the same thing. More bookings, more bookings, more bookings, right? And, there's a lot of overspending on, or we believe, a lot of overspending on conversion and, what you might call starving your brand. But today, Steve wanted to talk about unpacking, the unbalanced marketing funnel. And he brought in his superstar, Danielle, who's out of Chicago, just joined SHR. But Steve, let's kick off with, why shouldn't hoteliers go all in on their conversion campaigns?
Yeah. It's something we talk about it a lot recently. Even going back a number of years, we've looked at the balance and imbalance, actually, not the balance, the imbalance between branded search campaigns, conversion campaigns, and it's where there's this brand defense. So on every single marketing journey and every single buyer journey, there's going to be a point of conversion. And any good digital marketer or any good OTA will know where that point of conversion is, and you're going to put your campaigns. Anyone that's trying to capture that conversion is going to put a lot of money into those campaigns to try and win that conversion. It's very easy to fall into a trap of saying we're just going to put it all in. We're just going to go after that high ROI and just get that. It's too easy to do that, actually, and that's what we've seen over the years. Particularly, like, we've seen since going way back to 2015 and on the book direct wars, essentially, where everything was book direct. A lot of everything is just focused on branded campaigns, and it becomes it becomes very hard to untangle yourself from those branded campaigns then, because when you're looking at it, that's where you see revenue. So we're doing an awful lot of work on trying to find ways to untangle from those revenue campaigns, but directing it the right places, which is not the OTAs. The OTAs will do a very good job of being present for the conversion campaigns right at that point, and trying to kind of hoover up and capture that demand as well. But you're gonna have guests that will be loyal to the official website, that will want to book on the official website, and it's trying to find a way to not be wasteful on those guys, and getting only using the spend in a branded campaign where it's absolutely necessary, where you're going to lose the conversion to the OTAs or another if you don't spend on it. So it's trying to kind of really strike the balance, the real balance. To give you kind of numbers behind it, what we're trying to achieve, we typically see, like, when we take over a Google Ads account from other agencies, what we typically see is 95% of spend is being funneled into branded campaigns, which is it's a huge amount. It's absolutely massive, and it's and then typically we see the average cost per click for those campaigns is just being punched up, trying to win that conversion as well. So there's like nothing is following as it should be. So, like, everything is just increasing cost to win existing demand. So that we've always had a bit of a concern around that. So we've taken a bit of a different approach. So we're very focused now on trying to kind of strike that balance. So we're targeting that we want a minimum of 70-30, for a kind of a brand new kind of fresh account, we'll say, but really kind of push into 60-40, 50-50 split of brand versus conversion campaigns for somewhat more mature accounts. Like, where we see success is the accounts that we're working with, where they are they have the I suppose the confidence and the willingness to push back on the OTAs, and we're seeing, we can get them down to a 25-75 brand versus non-brand split. So,
Wow.
so our spend, there's some accounts where we're working with now where we're not even spending on brand because they don't work with OTAs. So they actually have the freedom to go out after low ROAS and, without having to, put a lot of time into fighting for their branded campaign. So it's, yeah, sorry, I know I'm jumping around the place there, but it's just, it's something that it's like, and there's so many different areas that it touches on, so if you're going to put a bunch of spend into your branded search campaigns, but then not kind of work on your SEO to try and make sure that you're bumping up your SEO, or that you're not putting money into like reinforcement campaigns on social ads to make sure that even, when they're not in that kind of buying moment, they might just be in that consideration piece, that you should be doing the work the entire length of the journey and not just trying to do it at the very end, so it's yeah, sorry, I'll
No, that's all right.
please stop me. Yeah.
I was going to ask Danielle,
Yeah.
what kind of common mistakes, does she see hotels making when they're allocating their digital budgets?
Yeah, and I think this correlates really nicely with Steve was just talking about, right? And how are we fueling the top and middle parts of that funnel? We want to make sure that we have budget that's allocated that allows us to have that more diversified channel strategy. And as Steve was saying, we naturally want to protect our brand from our competitors and OTAs, but we don't want to find ourselves in a bidding war. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves spending our entire budget just on brand protection. And we really want to make sure that we're meeting the customer, the consumer with where they're at, right? So we want to make sure we're appearing for their beginning, their middle, what I call the go back loop, and of course the final decision making stages. So we all know the consumer journey is super fragmented right now. And the behavior is shifting rapidly across platforms and the way we're searching, right? I mean, we're going to Pinterest, we're going to TikTok and travel blogs for inspiration, along with the search engines. And once they're narrowing down their few properties, they might move to direct site visits, see which one might best align with their needs. They're also looking at reviews, exploring the local area. So as Steve said, if we're just spending all of our time at the end, we're not capturing that demand, that interest at the beginning. So we're losing big opportunities if we're not testing into these new channels and also running placements on the demand gen type of campaigns and on the PMAX type of campaigns for those awareness and consideration stages.
Yeah. It's overwhelming, when you start that journey. It's like, where do I begin? Just, all right, I'm gonna go here. Now what? Steve, in your strategy book we released in January, you talk about the messy middle. What's a real world tactic hoteliers can use to win there?
Yeah. So I suppose to quickly explain the messy middle was it's a marketing theory or a marketing idea basically of that piece where when you're in that consideration phase, you haven't quite made the decision of where you want to go. You are going to be absolutely pummeled with marketing. Like everyone is going to be trying to get out in front of you and show you their message. Or if the marketing teams are any good, they will be trying to do that. So like that they'll know you're at that stage. That's the messy middle, and that messy middle is where, as Danielle was mentioning, it's you're jumping from place to place, and you are you're on a number of different websites, you're on a number of different social media website sites, you're offline, you're having conversations with your wife, with your husband, with whoever it might be. It's constant, like but that's where the messy middle is. It's very much that trying to influence someone, trying to get that. Trying to get them to move on to the next stage and make sure that you're the one that they move on to. How can you do that? Persuasive messaging within your ads is absolutely key. It's small things, but like if you're if you're booking a holiday, okay, and you're booking a holiday to go to a once in a lifetime holiday, a honeymoon or something like that, or a safari or something, persuasive messaging isn't, book now, book direct, book immediately, and it's like flash sale kind of a thing. That's not what you want at that stage. You're trying to sell the experience. You're trying to not even sell the experience. You're trying to demonstrate the experience. You want to show them the experience. So it's making sure that the messaging that you're putting into those campaigns are right. You want to be showing them the amazing experiences, or the amazing rooms, or the different things that you could be doing on that property. That's not about conversion, so it's persuasive messaging at the right time. So right messaging, right time, right campaigns, and then making sure they're in the right channels as well. So the probably one really good example is Google promoted hotel ads. Google promoted hotel ads is not a conversion campaign. So having the expectation that you're going to have a super high ROAS off the back of a Google promoted hotel ad campaign is, it's not the right place to be. That is very much around persuasiveness, getting out in front of someone as they're after putting in, 5-star safari in South Africa or something like that. So if you can show up there, and then suddenly you then become part of their purchase journey. So you're not going to get the conversion. More often than not, you're not going to get the conversion at that point, because you've just become part of their kind of their journey towards their booking. So don't expect high ROAS, but using tools at the right time, like that promoted hotel ads, that's definitely one. Same can be said for performance max campaigns for travel. Really, really important. That gets out in front of that's getting out in front of people that have genuine travel intent but aren't actually searching for a brand, for example. If you're setting up your performance max campaigns right, that should be the way they should be set up. And social campaigns, looking at luxury travel audiences, that kind of stuff. So things like that, absolutely, and performance max, again, it's leaning into AI as much as possible. We've seen a transformation in how we work with the AI tools that Google have given us, and now Facebook are really starting to kind of come on board quite a bit now with the Advantage Plus campaigns. But it's and we're going to Google Marketing Live in a couple of weeks, and we're hoping to see a lot more kind of innovation coming out of Google with that as well. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. Danielle, what do you think about video and display? Is it fluffy or essential?
Definitely not fluffy. I would say these mediums are essential for engagement and bringing consumers in. As Steve was mentioning, really showing those experiences. I know sometimes we can feel a little intimidated when we say video and display, but I think it's important to remember that video doesn't need to be professionally produced, right, to be effective. Simple, short videos of our rooms, like Steve was saying, dining areas, the gym, spa, pool area, just different property amenities that the hotel can showcase to really fully immerse the potential guest into their property. Even things like providing travel tips, capturing guest experiences, panning around the local area. And then for display, even just adding motion to those images, something that captures the attention and really allows the hotel to form that emotional connection and be able to stand out. I think, as a consumer myself, what do I look for when I'm trying to find a property? Like, what do I want to feel? What am I thinking about? What do I want to see? What's exciting me? Can I envision myself there or my family there, depending on, what it is we're looking for? So content like video and display just, I think, really allows that visual storytelling experience, and also can increase the trust and confidence with the guest too. Like, yes, this is the right place for me. This is where I want to stay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Steve, you've talked earlier about over protecting the brand. Dive down into that a little bit for us.
So overprotecting the brand, that is the so what I mentioned earlier around the taking on Google Ads accounts that might have like 95% or even 100%. We've seen it where it's 100% of the spend is on brand. Then there's and even just tipping back to what I was mentioning earlier around setting up your performance max campaigns, like there is a growing movement towards performance max, and rightfully so. We've been running them for 2.5 years now, and they've been brilliant. But we've set them up in such a way that we're not bidding on brand campaigns. We do see an awful lot of performance max for travel campaigns being set up, but they're still bidding on branded terms. So it's they're not really working as hard as they could be. So it's even though in that example someone might be trying to do the right thing, but they just maybe don't have the knowledge or the know-how to execute it properly. But like I think the main thing that we see is when you're opening up a Google Ads account and 100% of the spend is on a branded search term, that's what we would term overprotection. That is or wasteful spend. And then when we see it where the average CPCs are actually too high as well, so it's and that every single property is going to be a little bit different as well. I'm not saying that every single hotel in the world is going to be able to run, a broad campaign across awareness, conversion, and consideration. Because at the end of the day, ADR plays a huge part. If you're low ADR, your average CPC should be the same as or in and around the same as another hotel properties that might have double or treble your ADR. Typically you can get the CPCs in and around the same cost, but your ROAS is going to be much lower. So you might not have the same wiggle room as another property to kind of run those campaigns. But like a key focus though is if you're driving up the average CPC on your branded terms, that's overprotection. If you're only spending on branded terms, that's overprotection. Be willing to risk a little bit of your branded terms not coming to you to growth, being able to shift spend into growth and not just constantly focusing and sweating on branded search ROI, and just actually having where you're able to move spend or your budget into the creative campaigns, the awareness campaigns into consideration. That makes a huge difference, because then suddenly you're actually generating demand. If you sit on demand capture all day, you're then very much reliant on one, OTAs doing your demand generation for you, and just hoping that the location that your property seems to be in or happens to be in is getting some level of demand. Some tier 1 cities absolutely will get that anyway, but a lot of places won't, and they do need to kind of feed in and generate some level of demand, particularly resort properties. Like if you're a resort property, you're not getting you're not getting a tier 1 city level of demand. You're not getting a Philadelphia, New York, whatever it might be. If you're outside of that and you have to create your own demand or try and generate your own demand, you're doing it off the back of probably your own brand reputation, but also the marketing that you put out there. And you can't rely on the OTAs to do that for you. You can't rely on you're not going to be relying on the local area. If you're the draw of the local area, you need to be doing something. So it's that's like for me, it's don't just put all your eggs in one basket of brand campaigns. And I hear myself saying it now, and I'm going to regret it, but it's lazy as well. If you're just spending on brand, you're getting high ROI, and everyone's patting themselves on the back, then who's really doing their work there? They should be. It should be a constant battle to try and get your balance between your brand and your non-branded campaigns, and constantly trying to win more non-branded campaigns, essentially. Yeah.
Danielle, let's close out with let's say I'm a GM at a 4-star independent hotel. What's one quick win I can execute next week to start balancing my funnel?
Yeah, and I like what Steve was saying too. It's really all about that testing and refining, right? And so, I think for that quick win, to really balance, I would say let's first launch a demand gen campaign. so we can engage some new audiences across the awareness and interest stage. And with this, we could even use your first party data from your CRM. We could use lists like past bookings, spa users, Wi-Fi sign-ins, and there's so many other property interactions that I think we tend to forget about that we could use for our first-party data. And we could really use that to fill across the funnel, utilizing multiple platforms, right? And then within that, I would really focus on the content. So it's kind of wrapping up everything we've been talking about, right? And that pushing a video, creatives that invoke an emotional, engaging connection, really allowing potential guests to envision themselves staying at your hotel. And then I'd run these campaigns across YouTube, TikTok, and Meta. And then even pairing that with retargeting, right? And that will help give an extra nudge and again, give that confidence and that trust that your property is the right choice. And then you take obviously that small amount and you use that for your brand protection. But as Steve mentioned as well, you know, we do have some properties we're running that we're not even running brand for, and the results are phenomenal.
That's good. That's interesting. So I know Steve has said this before, but conversion might win today, but awareness builds tomorrow.
Did I say that?
You wrote the book, man.
It sure does.
Yeah. Great digital strategy for 2025 mini book that Steve came out with in January. I got to make that available again to everybody. Really useful. We're not even halfway through the year. There's plenty of time to kick some of these strategies in gear. I want to thank both of you. And welcome, Danielle. We'll be talking a lot, I'm sure. Steve's off the hook now. He's got you. He's like
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle.
Bye. Thanks.